So carrying on here, one of the key factors again in talking about the accountability is being able to message and looking at what's going on with the program. So I think where Team Snap really knocks it out of the park relative to any other option that we have in terms of not just team management but also program management is their mobile app. Having used it, having used the Sport Engine app, which is decent, the League Athletics app, which is pretty clunky, and then also the Blue Sombrero app, which I've used. This one really goes above and beyond, at least in my personal opinion, any of the others. So I would encourage anybody watching this to take a look at the Team Snap website and then take a look at that app. If you have a kid who plays a different sport and they use Team Snap, surely you already have it, and I would imagine that you are a fan of it, as most people are that I know of. One thing we don't necessarily do right now is keep track of scores and as games are going on, because we don't typically have a score keeper. There is a function within Team Snap called Team Snap Live that an individual parent on a sideline could basically update the score of a game as it's going. So often, I'm not at a field, my wife will be texting me, here's what's going on, and it's great. But if we're looking to be able to point to how the team does, and as a player is working through our program over the years, she may want to be able to point to, obviously she'll say my individual stats are XYZ. I'm great on the draw, I get all the ground balls, blah, blah, blah. But what does my team do? Am I a team player? How do we function as a unit? And to be able to point to winning records or losing records or, specific games when, a player's also integrating, say, video in a huddle review or a YouTube video. If they could point to a team record, that would be fantastic. So Team Snap Live basically would take the onus off of necessarily a coach or somebody else to input the score. Team manager could do this and say, here's what the latest scores are, and keep everybody posted who may not be at a tournament. Doing the schedule, this goes into club administration and facilities and where we're going to practice, which teams are going to practice where, so we can basically build out all the different facilities and drag and drop and push different teams into specific locations as needed, and all the mapping will be there, so it just pushes out to everybody's inbox and their calendar. And speaking of calendars, you can sync all the Team Snap. If you don't have the app or you don't want to have the app, you can sync all the calendar information, whether it's to your Google calendar, to iCal, your Mac, your desktop, whatever the case might be. So super powerful. I looked also at what M&D does, and they actually don't have necessarily a sports-oriented company that built out their site. It was actually Attendee Interactive, which is, as a matter of fact, what it does is they are an association management company up in Baltimore. So that's the scoop there. Skywalkers, their site has always been pretty dry. Then the final, two final questions that kind of come up for me with all this are, as we look at the possibility of, or not the possibility, but running a team store. And we've got something else coming up that Kristen's going to talk about, but, having all that stuff done, sorted, delivered for our families. This is Burke Sporting Goods, and Burke Sporting Goods is an Under Armour distributor, and they do a variety of other distribution things as well. But what they'll do if we have stuff produced through them is, they'll take care of the order, they'll sort it, they'll bag it, they'll label it and say, okay, this is Susie's stuff, this is Jane's stuff, this is Mary's stuff. And so that the onus goes off of us for, all that kind of, grunt work, if you will, and puts it on the manufacturer and distributor of the gear that we're purchasing. So that is kind of takes care of that if we do our team store through just somebody else other than we have been. So that's a discussion that Kristen will take on a different, different line item within the meeting. And then finally, as we look at bringing Laxon Rust Off back into the fold next year, how do we run that? And I came across this, and we can do it through League Athletics, or excuse me, through TeamSnap, or really any of the sites as far as registration is concerned, or we can do it through a different tool. This is called Exposure Lacrosse Events. It's pretty marginal expense to do this. This is something completely different, but this sets up, manages, runs a tournament, and gives you all of the bracketing, all of the scheduling, all of the real-time game results. So, it's a pretty sweet little deal, pretty cost-effective. So that's something we'll talk about downstream. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.